to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody. This is the Quiet Warrior Show, Tom Dutta. Hey, if you're out there and you're not in Vancouver or in Canada, in the West, we're having a record heat wave. I want to tell you that yesterday we hit 46 degrees Celsius. For all you Americans, that's really, really hot. At 46 Celsius with the humid index almost 50, first time we've ever seen that in Canada. And I know across the world there's lots of heat going on, so everybody stay safe. We're in studio today. I got to tell you, this probably going to be one of the most incredible interviews I do. We've got a bunch of funky stuff, including a funky guest. I'll tell you a little bit about him. He's in the green room waiting for us. But first of all, what is live streaming? Live streaming is the next generation of podcasting. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And in fact, what we're really doing is we're letting you peek into the studio. You get to see the bloopers and everything. This will be produced later in a video premiere on YouTube and also an international podcast. So you want to subscribe to the Quiet Warrior Show wherever you find your podcasts. And also, if you want to go to Tom Dutta YouTube channel and click on the button and subscribe to that, you'll get the notification of the show when it comes out. So without further delay, I want to bring on my guest, John Lefebvre. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Tom. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping when the intro music was playing, I can see you're going to do an air guitar or something.
That's a really tight little jingle. Boy, that's for a quiet warrior. That's a really upbeat piece.
Thanks, man. Everybody, just want to say that for Canadians, I said to John when I first saw him, I said, you kind of look a little bit about Randy Bachman. He's 6'1", 247 pounds as we speak. Let me read you something that, John, you sent me, and I'm just going to read out loud for the audience, and then we'll get into this. But I've been a choir boy and a lawyer, a construction laborer and a house designer, a recidivist husband, single-time father. But it was another state in life that brought me notoriety and wealth, a prisoner. At 17 in 1969, I was arrested for selling hash and LSD to cops dressed up like hippies. I think some of them still dress that way today, John. And 40 years later, I was arrested again for co-founding and operating a business that the year I was arrested was tracking to transfer over $14 billion, mostly American, between online gamblers and internet bookies and casinos. My goodness. So you took all of this, which I call is your triumphs and your mess, and you turned it into a message. And I think we're going to learn a lot from you today, dude. So welcome to the show. Just take us back to the beginning. I want to know a little bit about, you where you're born and how you got to the point of saying, hey, I got to build a business. I got to make some money. I got to do what I did.
Ooh, that's a long question. I was born in 1951. I was the middle child of three. My father was a soldier. He had just completed his papers for his majority. He was going to be a major. He was a captain when he was 27. He was about to be made a major, and he was killed in a blizzard in New Brunswick, by Chatham Miramichi in New Brunswick. My mom raised the three of us, flew us back to Calgary. I remember I was 3 years old on one of those North Star planes, and there's a little button on her plane on her seat. And if I pushed the button when she was sleeping, it kind of made her sit up right now. So anyways, we moved back to Calgary where it was, my mom's home where she was raised, and she raised us on her own. She, worked for a while and then went to university. She was one of the first graduates of the University of Calgary. She became a teacher, and then when I was in elementary or junior high school, I guess, she returned to university at Gonzaga in Washington State and became a guidance counselor and ran out her career as a guidance counselor in the Calgary school system. I learned a lot from my mom: music, compassion, thoughtfulness. Eventually, I wound up going to university when I was a bit older, 28 or so, and I wound up in law school and practiced law for about 12, 14 years. One of their clients had this wonderful idea about it was at the dawn of the online gaming industry, and he it came to him that if somebody brought some professionalism and responsibility to the online money transfer side of that industry, that would possibly make a good little business model. And the next thing you know, we were going public on the London Stock Exchange, like you said, and it was the run for the roses, and we hit the big one. You have those dreams when you're a kid that, you stick your hand in your pocket and it's always full of money. And I woke up to that.
I want to just jump in there, John. First of all, my brain's multidimensional and I'm going on these journeys in my head as you're talking. Please. I got to tell you, man, that there's definitely this creative side to you, this gene, looking at all the things you do, music and whatnot. We're talking about you're being very vulnerable, explaining the death of your father. I'm sorry for that loss. We shared a common thread there. My dad was a commanding officer in the British forces and Canadian. But we're talking about that, but you do it in a way where you can shift to something else and then you're chuckling. So I just love that about you. I think the world needs to be able to use laughter more. But here's the thing. You had this dream, you visualized it, you went to law school, you built an online business, and then things happen. I always look at stories like yours and ask myself the why. What's the why behind it? What I want to do now, John, is I want to bring out a video. And I thought we could do this because it's a video you gave me permission to share on live. We're going to watch a little bit of this video, and then we're going to come back together again. We're going to watch it together. If I can figure this out on my studio here. So just bear with me. So we're going to just change it to that. And I'm just going to start her up. So everybody just listen and watch if you're on the platform.
1 minute, I was making tea. And the next, I was trying to figure out how to sip the tea with my hands cuffed behind my back. I've been a lot of things in my lifetime. A rich man and penniless, deep in debt. I've been a corporate drone and the boss of thousands. The highest of highs and some very low lows. Before my arrest, I was living the wildest trip with a net worth of hundreds of millions and definitely living like it. Taking my nieces on a $40,000 spree on Rodeo Drive was just another typical afternoon. Flying my jet from Burbank to Santa Monica to avoid traffic? You bet. That was the new normal. I could buy anything. I felt like I could do anything. I was invincible. But the moment those cuffs went on, that feeling evaporated. I was on my way to prison.
All right. Let's stop it there. John, does that ever get old when you see that video?
The story doesn't get old. The video is starting to get old.
The thing that came to my mind is with a guy who has that kind of money, why the heck didn't you get a haircut? I made a pact with the universe when I was about 17. I said, if I never let steel touch my arm, I'm talking about I just mimicked shooting up. If I never let steel touch my arm, God would never let steel touch my hair. Wow. All right. From shooting up to God touching your hair. I love it. You are obviously a poet. Let's get back to being serious now. So, dude, I watched that, John. And so tell us, just take us back into that moment and talk to us about that first part of the video. Just talk to us about it.
That morning when you get arrested is that's a severe shakeup. It was very I suppose the right word is traumatic, but you feel like you're in shock, but it's really happening. And, all of a sudden you're handcuffed in the back of a black limousine filled with U.S. Marshals. And on your way downtown, asking you if you want to make a phone call, telling you, if you help us, it won't go as badly for you if you, give up some of your friends, that sort of thing, And I wound up in jail in downtown Los Angeles with people with tattooed skulls and all kinds of poor people. It was an astonishing experience.
How old were you back then?
I think I was about 54 or 5 when I was arrested.
So talk to me about your mental health. I mean, for me, for something like that, I'd be scared, and probably fall into some state of depression or anxiety. I mean, the brain just can't fathom those events. But what were you feeling? I mean, how was your whole state of mind?
Well, I was very anxious about what I was going to wind up what it was going to be like when I got in there. You hear lots of stories about the gang, the gang bangers and stuff in Los Angeles and elsewhere in the United States. And I didn't know who the heck I was going to be involved, but when I got in there, it was fairly normal. There was all the tables were just segregated in Los Angeles by color. That distinguishes Los Angeles from New York. In New York, everybody eats together, but in Los Angeles, everybody was separated by color. And the guys at the white table, word gets around pretty quickly, and they found out that I was a multimillionaire. They made a seat for me at the white table, and and then I tried to eat it at a black table. I sat down at a black table, and I said, can I join you guys? And they said, free country, like that. And then I got ragged on pretty badly. They said, you're lucky you didn't wind up on the ground with your supper on your face, that kind of thing. So, but I realized I had to pay attention to a culture that I was not familiar with. Sure.
Hey, John, back at that point in time, were you married? I think you had family.
No, I was not married. I had just met, sort of just kind of gotten to know the lady who's now my wife, Hillary Watson. It was about 10 days after we first kissed. I had a date for supper with her in Vancouver, on Salt Spring Island, 2 days later. And, my first call was to let her know that I was going to be unable to make the date.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that's a Canadian moment, a teaching moment. Everybody, Salt Spring Island. It's one of our beautiful Gulf islands here. I live in the other side of the water, Vancouver, on the outskirts, and it's a beautiful part of the world. John, so I'm just trying to piece this together visually. Mm-hmm. So you were obviously flying and doing business in the U.S. where you were arrested, but you lived here. Your home was here on Salt Spring. Is that what you're saying?
I had homes at that time. I had homes on Salt Spring, in Vancouver, in Calgary, and two at Malibu Beach.
Gotcha. So let me just get deeper into this before we put the video back on. I know when I was setting this up, I said we're going to call it head to head with John. One of the things I love about you, man, and I respect, is we had some emails back and forth, and you're very candid and open. And I bring people on the show, and I'm a kind Canadian, but I always think about the why. And I watched that video, the part where I think also at some point later you refer to yourself as a rich prick, and the shopping tours with your nieces or whatever, that little piece of the video, the $40,000. At that point in time, you could have taken them to build houses and donate money, but a shopping spree, passing on and teaching that wealth, to that generation, wealth is important. It seems to me that, and I was like this when I was climbing the ladder and got into my top career, that I had this a value of significance, and there was no love, there was no gratitude. It was all about the big paycheck, about material things. And this really hurt me, John. I'm sharing with you because I love you, man, about your story, that I have a family member. He's younger than me, a brother, and he has Tourette syndrome. He's not that healthy, but he would send me pretty nasty messages when I was at the top of my game, and he'd refer to me as Mr. CEO and your hot tub and be cussing at me. And I had a blind spot for a long time. I couldn't see why other people would be putting me down for my success. What I really unraveled later is that my story was I was missing the love and acceptance of my father, who did pass away from a heart attack, but he was a drunk and he left home when I was 12, as I mentioned to you offline. And I had it wired in my thinking traps, my neural nets, that it played over and over again. I was climbing to, I said in my TED Talk, a self-worth chaser, not a success chaser. So let me bring this to a point. I myself, my story was I was doing things for material wealth and fame and status for the wrong reason. It was because something was broken in my soul. And so you were a successful guy. You built this company. You may not have that in your thinking, but what drove you to do what you did with your wealth and be a rich prick? What drove you to do that? And then what changed?
Well, I admit being a prick because some of the things I did were very, very prickish. You know, first of all, flying around in a private jet. You know, I calculated once that's about the same as if I drove everywhere with 3 loaded semis. Wow. You know, and it was about 8 gallons to the mile for something. But I was fortunate that when I came to wealth, Tom, that I was, older. I was 55. I was pretty experienced, or 52 or something like that. And I had spent, in my younger days, I think people are going to be able to intuit that I was, what the newspaper used to call hippies. Yeah. I was not adverse to a hit of acid frequently, and when I was young, and that puts us in a different sort of frame of mind, and it comes to it's basically the frame of mind that I wrote about in my book, All's Well Where Thou Art, Earth and Why. But it's the basic thing is that we have a miracle going on within us called consciousness, and it is here within us all. It's what makes us all equal in the world as human beings. There's nothing to distinguish us from the starving people in the desert of Africa. Try as I might, I can't figure out what distinguishes us. I can't help it if I'm lucky. It's not a good enough distinction for us to have all of this and for them to have nothing. We have this miraculous thing inside us that is consciousness, and it makes us the same. And we have a knight has to save a lady, and the reason is because his freedom comes to him because of his culture, and the cost of that freedom is to protect the culture, and so that's basically the attitude I took.
Yeah, everybody come back to this part of the show, rewatch. That was a teaching moment. John, I want to read something before we get back into that pretty cool video of yours. Let me just read it off my paper here. For the first notorious experience, I was immersed in a world-changing culture on the cusp between respecting all authority, all elders on the one hand, and only respecting who we thought deserved it on the other, between taking things for granted and finding out for oneself. We had sock hopped to the Beach Boys and wound up raging around the fire to, ooh, a storm is threatening my very life today, showing our elders they had a new batch of young to respect. So there's obviously a shift in your mindset there from what you were just talking about. One more thing I want to just leave with you from my experience, because there's some parallels. I wrote about this in the book, but in 2007, we were on top of it all, my wife and I, and we were caught up in the world's largest Ponzi scheme. We woke up and basically lost it all. It was $1 billion take globally, and I was a career CEO, and my wife was a manager. John, her mom had just had a major health setback, and she took an early leave from the bank to look after her. And I said, honey, on the strength of my career, why don't you just go do what you got to do? And a month later, corporate America downsized me. We went through a merger. So we basically woke up one day with 3 kids, the 2 homes and all the things we had, the life we took for granted. And we had nothing, and we had no jobs. And I thought that was the first call to adventure to figure out what the true meaning of my life was. But we rebuilt that, John. And as I mentioned to you offline and in the TED Talk I just did, literally in 2018, my father dies. I slip in a bathtub, crack my head, blackout, almost killed myself, and slipped into depression, all these other things. And I remember saying, as I wear a cross now, and I used to deny faith, but I said, God, why strip me? I mean, I came through that all. I buried my dad. I got forgiveness. Why are you stripping me? And I just remember being told that you've got more to learn. And this is one of the things I pick up in your story. It may not be your story, just comes to me, man, that you were here and then you were stripped of these events, you were stripped of that, and then you built back again. And there's something, a mission you're on in this world. So I'm going to play the video again. We're going to watch a bit more and then get you to talk to us about it. Just hang on, John.
Thank you. Right now, from Malibu Beach to a shared cell with a guy who drank the sour milk he saved and whose breath smelled like it. In the arrests, I never felt like I did broken any meaningful moral code. But I had probably broken the law, and for that, I deserved what I had coming. But then, that's my yard. I began to see that maybe I'd broken with morality in a more profound way than I'd ever. Beautiful. What I realized was I was just another privileged prick. Spoiled, petulant, entitled, self-centered. I needed to start thinking about what life could be about moving forward.
That's spectacular.
What it should be about. And for certain, there were others out there like me. Actually, just about everyone in our culture, and many others, were all of those things too. We don't respect each other enough. When it comes down to it, we're not as different as we may sometimes seem. The most important things in life, we all share equally. And I mean everybody. Me, the spoiled rich kid 50 years old, and the starving mom with baby dying at her dusty breast in the Sudan. We are the same. Why should we have all we have, yet remain careless about hundreds of millions whose level of circumstance we would consider disgusting for ourselves? Maybe it was a few great acid trips in the 60s. Maybe it was losing so much in one astonishing instant. Either way, I'm seeing things differently now. We are not enriched by the money we take, but by the friends we make and keep. We are enriched by what we give.
All right, we just paused that video there, John. Amazing. I want to clarify because those listening to the podcast might hear you say something about I'm a rich prick and me saying that's amazing. It was actually what we were watching, everybody, is we were watching the front view from John's home, which is on the Gulf Islands, part of BC here. And John, talk to us about that last clip we just saw.
I don't really know what to say. There's nothing wrong with being a rich guy. The only thing that makes some rich guys pricks is that they underappreciate their responsibility to be generous. I think to me the price of wealth is generosity. And the dividends of generosity are gratitude, and the real miracle of life lies in those things, not in the money. I think the more we share, the more we deserve the money we got. Well, if we don't share, we don't deserve any of it.
Thank you, John. Let me jump in there. That's a teaching moment, everybody on the show, that it's okay to be wealthy. In fact, John, I believe from my faith that God wants us to be wealthy, but it's what we do with it. As you said, it's being in service. And I love your word gratitude. Just again, when I had my values, when I was all messed up with my own thinking, gratitude wasn't on the list. I didn't know what it was. And so you've made this shift. You've gone from where you were to this belief of gratitude and what you do, how you serve. Tell us from there, what are you doing with life today? How are you giving back? How are you serving?
Well, I don't have that much to give away anymore.
I gathered that from
my financial advisors are being very stringent with me about how they I think they want the same thing I want. That's never to have to go to work again. But like my friend Jim Hogan says to me, for a guy who's retired, you're pretty hard to get on the phone. But I'm a non-board member of the finance committee and the investment committee of the David Suzuki Foundation. Canadians know what that means more than Americans do. He's a preeminent ecologist in Canada. With my friend Jim Hogan, we started the Desmog blog group of companies. Jim's a great PR guy, highly regarded. And the slug line for the Desmog group was clearing up the PR pollution that clouds climate science.
Yep.
And so it's about, the debate about climate science really isn't a scientific debate. It's a PR debate. And I think everybody knows that. Jim's big point, our main point was that, the climate science deniers don't have to do any science. It suffices for the people who are paying them money that they just raise the level of doubt sufficiently that the policy guys in government don't have to make any moves yet. So they just lie, and they lie about it and raise the level of doubt sufficiently that government doesn't have to act. And that's insidious. It's a super big problem.
Yeah. John, when you look back at where you were and at the time that everything was, the wealth was there, do you ever have moments where you have regrets, or do you ever have struggles in your mind about what, I wish I could be back there again? How do you accept How do you accept life the way it is after you've gone through something like that?
My regrets are really only that about half of the money that I gave away was stupid, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
and half of it was not.
Obviously, I wasn't on your list.
Yeah, that was the stupid part. I didn't give enough to you.
Well, thank you.
And the only thing I resent about Uncle Sam really and his dealing with me is, I mean, I like I say in the film, I earned what I got from them. Everybody knew what side of the line we were walking on, including us. But you know, that night when I was arrested, my net worth went down by about, I don't know, a couple $100 million, and I do regret not being able to use that money myself to better to advance civilization.
Yeah,
I know that sounds a bit audacious, but that's basically what I'm.
Man. I mean, that's why your story's so classic. It's the classic hero's journey. We discover things later in life about the importance of life. And I don't hold that against you, dude, because
I do want to add one thing, if I may, here quick.
Yeah.
You know, my experience being arrested, you know, in my 50s, underlined something that I had known since I was a kid. And that is that, you know, I knew all the time that I was getting wealthy, that didn't make me special. If anything, it only made me extremely fortunate. And, I knew from the beginning that, wealth should be shared, you know, and I wanted, I didn't maybe turn to that as quickly as I could have. And when I did, I wished I'd done it more smartly. Those are my only regrets.
Yeah, I totally hear you. Somebody said to me the other day, John, they said that when you're in the womb, you have everything and you're the happiest. You have safety, you have food, right? You have warmth, you got your mom. And then for some reason we come out of the womb, and then life teaches us right away that we have to get more stuff, and we have to be happy and love ourselves. We have to climb, we have to get pats on the back, all of that. I sometimes think about that a lot, about even my own journey in life, that if I could wake up and just say, you know, you're a good guy, and I love myself, God loves me, it's just enough. I wish I'd thought of like that back then, but I really accept my life journey because I had to be stripped of some things to learn. The last thing I want to share with you, which is really why I think I call you a brother now in my mind, is that when I lost my dad at age 12, I didn't have somebody to teach me. And in fact, when I learned before my dad died about the fact that his dad was a alcoholic, you know, my dad was pushed off a bridge in Fiji. That's how he learned to swim. And then, like your dad, he was in the military, but my dad was command and control. So the rules I learned as a young kid and everything is, the brain says it's fact back then. I was told things about myself. And I guess I tried to apply that in relationships as I climbed the ladder into corporate America. And I changed. I had to make some major changes, but I didn't have that mentor. I wish I'd met you back then. So we're learning a lot from the story. I want to go back and play the last bit of this video. So just hang tight there. Just going to put this screen together. Everybody, we're having fun today with some technology here that I'm playing with. So we're going to play the video.
The same train out of here, just slightly different.
We're all on the same train out of here, just different schedules.
We can learn with each other, and finding our universal place, bring with us respect and reverence, making ours and all species stronger and more fulfilled for generations to come. This has become the mission for my last chapters, yet to unfold and as yet unwritten. And it's not something I can do alone. I don't know how much time I have left, but I'd love the opportunity to propose this same ambition for you to consider and embrace. It could be the greatest New Year's resolution in human history.
All's well. Hold on. We're going to pause this video again. All right. We're back here. Hold on, John. Going to get us back on screen. Yeah, I wrote that down here. I can't do it alone. We're on the same train out of here. Explain that. What do you mean by that?
Well, we're all going to die.
This is true.
And it won't be long for me. I'm 70 this summer. So, you know, I don't know how much time I've got left. I still don't know. I made that film 3 years ago, but, you know, I got 3 more years out of the deal. And, you know, so far, I'm still hanging in there. our life would be, our life as a species is going to improve a millionfold, a million times, when we start to look after each and every one of us the same way we look after our own children. And there's no reason why we shouldn't, and there's no reason why we can't. It can't cost, whatever it costs, it can't cost as much as military costs, globally today.
Yeah.
And it's just for peanuts. We could make sure that everybody has the basics, the things that you and I take for granted, Tom. We're in a very privileged society, and we take the things that come to us absolutely for granted as entitlements. And you know what? I think we should take them as entitlements. But where it becomes difficult is to distinguish why, if we're entitled to them, why is everybody not? And I cannot find a distinction that's sufficient. I can't help it if I'm lucky is not a good enough distinction. If we're entitled to, what I'm talking about is, respect and security of the person, reasonable access to food, clothing, and shelter, access to the tools of self-improvement and healthcare, to basic justice and basic finance, and finally, last but not least, the access to a healthy environment. And we can afford, and we should afford, to do that for everybody in the world. Everybody in the world. Now, the difficult part is there are obstacles that we as yet have not discovered how to get over. For instance, how do we help the young lady in Somalia who's about to get a clitoris cut off? There's sovereignty reasons. There are like religious freedom reasons. There are a bunch of things that stop us, but they shouldn't stop us. Some things must trump sovereignty, and some things must trust, religious freedom. And when either of those things are used as shields to deprive people of their fundamental rights, the things that you and I take for granted, I think we have an obligation to stand up and do something, and we have to learn how to do that. And that's what we'll be doing. And when we do, we're going to have a whole world full of people who are grateful for what we've done. And you know what? When people are grateful, they don't bust your balls, Tom.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Another teaching moment. I just want to say that's so well said, John. Thank you. What makes you real to me is, there's other people who have lost a lot of money. There's other people who have gone through worse than you or I have. And when you talk to some of those people, when I talk to some of those people, or I see their stories, I say, I don't care. Why should I care about you? But when you decide to take that and do something with it to help the world, then I fall in love with your story all over again. And I think that's something that why I titled the stock ticker, I put thought leader, John, because we're just a privilege to have a guy like you out there sharing your thoughts and trying to do good. And I think we're not done with our work yet. I have a study, a Canadian study that I researched, and it's from 90-year-olds, and they asked 90-year-olds 3 questions. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. They said, what were your top 3 regrets at age 90? And I know you're not 90 yet, but the top 3 were: I didn't risk enough, I didn't reflect enough, and I didn't create a big enough legacy. So the question for you, probably the last question for today, is when you're done with this world, what do you want it to look like?
I want everybody to have the same crack at life that you and I had, Tom. Just like that. It's that simple. And that's on a collective basis. I think that all of the things that we take for granted, we can make available to everybody in the world. Just quickly, I met a guy who does some work in Malawi, and he told me that there's a guy over there who has an Apple phone. It's probably like an iPhone 6 or something like that. Yeah. And an Apple phone now in Malawi is a whole internet cafe. People come and they use his phone for 15 minutes and they do whatever they have to, Wow. In that phone, the guy told me a couple of weeks back, a phone now, an iPhone 12, has all the power that ever existed in Rockefeller Center. You can do all the movie productions, all the same quality, in your home. More importantly, in that same phone is every university library in the world.
Yeah. Wow.
And we have to take it out to the world and let people develop people so that they can look after themselves, develop people so that they can improve their productivity. And when they improve, wealth is infinite, Tom.
Yeah.
Wealth is infinite. I talked to some really conservative guys and they admitted to me, they think wealth is only dependent on the creativity. Only 20% of the people on this planet are developed. The rest of them are underdeveloped or absolutely deprived. And when we develop those people, wealth is just going to explode on the planet. So sharing is going to make you richer, you pricks. Get used, get over it. You know what? Hoarding money is the wet dream of wealth.
Yeah.
The real wealth of wealth is sharing.
Absolutely. My brain's going crazy here again. Defining the definition of wealth, as you know, it's many things to many people. I was thinking about that iPhone you were talking about. It reminded me of this story. Actually, my wife watches a faith-based show each morning, and I started watching it a few years ago. And by the way, when I fell and got injured, I went from being a sea-level guy to stalking at Costco as a produce stalker till midnight for a year and a half. I used to pray on the way in the car. I said, God, just take me. And if you want me to stay there, I'll stay there. So I started following faith quite a bit. And they were showing one of the initiatives that they were doing through this ministry. And there's some funding, and they went out to countries like Africa, and they gave, let's say, for example, you live there and you're one of the native people. They gave you a little moped. They gave you a backpack. And in the backpack was a little projector that you could project on a wall. And then you had access to Wi-Fi or to the internet, and you could actually get the ministry's videos and teachings. And so you literally could drive anywhere in Africa and set up a little church and teach people. And that, when you said iPhone in that story, that's where my head went, man. It's like, we can do this. I mean, we can do this together. We can do this with a tribe of people. It's just everything in this world, I believe, is created twice, once from a thought and then second in the physical equivalent. And you, sir, are an example of taking thoughts and manifesting them into something good.
That's exactly the magic that the wealth that has befallen me, that is so much more important than, money wealth. And that is, and it hasn't befallen me any more than it has everybody. We are those animals in the universe that have a very, very special magical power. We can dream, and then we can take those dreams and make them into reality.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I'm going to let you have the last word. I know that on the website, there's a bunch of things that people need to check out. You've got some books and some musical stuff. Can you tell us about that?
Well, there are two books on my website. One of them is the one I wrote. It's called All's Well, Where Thou Art, Earth and Why. It's a kind of an audacious ramble through the history of human culture and the future of human civilization. And once again, probably more than a bit audacious, I propose the principles by which we will, the principles that we must adopt if we're going to advance as a civilization. And I've already spoken about them on the show, but they're delineated more carefully in the book. The other book is called Good with Money. Carrie Gold, I helped her write that. I was a bit averse to, everybody thought I should write the story of my life because it's so exciting, but I was kind of averse to writing stories that's, sentences that start with I and end with me. And so I got Carrie to help, and she wrote that story, and it's called Good with Money. And the title came from, like, all of my financial advisors would say to her, Carrie, he's not good with money. And she said, well, there's my title. And so, and those are there. I was very fortunate when I was a musician with a lot of money in my hand, and I was introduced to a guy named Brian Ahern. He produced he produced what the heck's her name? No, it doesn't matter. But he moved to Los Angeles. He wound up married to Emmylou Harris, and he produced 13 or 14 of her records and stuff. So he's a very high-end producer, and he liked my stuff. So we went in the studio, and we got to make all these records with the greatest studio musicians in the world. Really, I won't go through their names now, but it's all available on site. And I wound up doing 2 double CDs, 40 songs I wrote and produced, and they're all on all the streaming services now. You can go listen to them if you like. So they're that's available. You can listen to them on my website too, johnlefebvre.com. And I encourage people to have a look there and see if there's anything of interest. If you want to plan the highest civilization that's ever existed in our neck of the universe, go to All's Well Where Thou Art, Earth and Why, and figure out what it is we have to do to make Earth the Eden. We can have Eden here, but we will make it ourselves. And when we make it, we will deserve it. We will have deserved it.
What a great thought to leave us with, John. Everybody go to the website, johnlefebvre.com. That's John, LEFEBVRE.com. I did go there and check out all the music. In fact, when I produced the YouTube premiere, John, I got a couple tracks I chose that I'm going to weave in there. So you're a talented man. I play guitar and probably can't sing half as well as I heard you, but we're going to riff one day, I'm sure. And I'll leave it with my last word here as I interview. I write these down, John. They're leadership words that I want to honor you with, and they just come to me. The first one is gratitude. Dude, your gratitude. The second is a guide. They say a leader's number one job is to create other leaders. You have to be able to follow someone. You have that in you. Number three is your creativity. Absolutely. And number four is love. I don't know if people have told you that, but it comes out of you. There's this thing you want to be around you and talk to you, man. So on that note, we're going to give you an award. You see on my screen, there's a picture. I want to show you this. I'm going to feature me for a moment on this video. So you'll see kind of a guy, looks like a guy I know behind me there. These are challenge coins. I don't know if you know what they are, John, but they were created in World War I, and they were carried by soldiers in their pockets. And if you had yours, if you didn't have yours, say you and I met, then you would have to buy drinks or we'd have fun. You buy dinner. And so they were carried to create community and commitment. And today, challenge coins, if you Google them, are used around the world to create community. My father died 23 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. They have their own version. So I had a vision for the show of bringing quiet warriors to the show, men like you who have had a story, who now are serving the world. And I created this as the award. The back of it's hand-painted and crafted in the United States. Sorry, Canada. And the back of the coin has the narrative of the hero's journey. You will be receiving one. Less than 40 a year go out on the planet of 8 billion people, because not many people will do what you do. And by holding it, John, you commit to continuing to have passion, take action, and live the life you deserve, but enriching others. And just know when you put in your pocket that I'm up to almost 200 shows now. There are 200 people in 17 countries that have been given this honor. We're all connected by that thread. So welcome to the Quiet Warriors.
I look forward to living up to the coin.
Yeah, I know. We still have work to do here. I think there's another chapter. All right, everybody, find the show, The Quiet Warrior Show, and subscribe to it on your favorite podcast channel. Give this episode, when it comes out, a rating so we can honor John's work. Also find the Quiet Warrior Show YouTube channel and click on the button you'll see to subscribe so you get the premiere, which we'll be putting out sometime after that. And live life with passion and purpose like you see from John here, and live that life that you deserve and desire. Thank you, John.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca